In either case, I've lost him. And Caraxes with him. Rhaenys and her dragon are dead. I have Syrax and 2 young beasts. We cannot take on Vhagar alone. And I have no army.
So what you're whinging about?
I'm not whinging.
Your lips are moving and you're complaining about something. That's whinging.
Aside from the phenomenal Battle of Rook's Rest, House of the Dragon has devolved this season into a shadow of what it was in Season 1. Not that Season 1 didn't have its flaws, but the quality of the show has declined precipitously. This isn't to say that we still don't have many well-delivered scenes and excellent acting performances. We do. Most of them, though, involve the Greens, where we have characters that have clearer motivations and individuals that seem more real than their counterparts in the Black faction. And I'll get to all of that and what's still working in a bit. But first, let's talk about Seasmoke. I like the scene where he refused the first person who attempted to claim him. After that, though, we have problems. Remember back in Season 8 of Game of Thrones how disappointing it was when Jon finally found out about his Targaryen lineage, and they made such a farce out of him riding a dragon, and then we had this cringeworthy moment. That's why one of my favorite scenes in the entire A Song of Ice and Fire universe is the one we had last season, House of the Dragon, when Aemon claimed Vhagar. That's how you do it. In this episode, the writers took a page out of Dan and Dave's playbook and gave us this cartoonish sequence where Seasmoke hunts down a new rider, Adam of Hall. It's impossible to take this seriously, but I guess anything goes now on the show as long as it looks cool on screen. Does anyone give a damn about Adam of Hull anyway? Since they're taking great liberties with Martin's original story, I don't know why they just didn't bring Rhaenyra back. He dies in the book, but in Season 1 they faked his death. It's kind of like Chekhov's gun. We need to see him used. But no, we have a useless throwaway character in a campy scene. But imagine for a minute, all of this would have been great if Seasmoke had tracked down Rhaenyra instead to bring him back rather than this guy. Since the writers are over their heads and adapting a clear-cut story, I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt that Rhaenyra stupidly died off screen rather than the whole problem of a dragon accepting another rider while his current one is alive. Besides, the narrative has enough problems that we don't need to quibble about that. Daemon continues to be wasted in this Harrenhal mess. It's like when Bran disappeared in Season 5 of Game of Thrones, but unfortunately for the audience, we can watch each week to see Daemon's character further shredded. He occupies the same island of imbecility as Rhaenyra. Alice Rivers is clearly manipulating him, giving him concoctions to drink, and she's the one that's constantly haranguing him, but for some reason he decides to blame Simon Strong for his problems. We get to see Caraxes in this episode. He needs to get the hell out of this quagmire, fly to Essos, and wait for Drogon to arrive in 170 years or so. Before leaving the Harrenhal wreckage behind, while it's good to see Paddy Considine playing Viserys again, we really don't get anything new from these visions, and actually, I thought their relationship was tied up nicely last season, and it's always been clear what Daemon's feelings are about his brother. None of this is necessary right now. Rhaenyra had her Will Smith moment in this one. It's funny how the show presents her counsel as unreasonable, but she's done nothing to gain their confidence. She's disappeared twice now and has been unfocused and weak. If I'm them, I'm pulling a Gendry and rowing out of there. We have the misfortune of Rhaenyra kissing the worst character on the show, which means that we'll have to suffer through many more scenes of her in the future. So what is still working on the show? Well, everything that is going on in King's Landing. My favorite scene was Larys meeting with Aegon, speaking real to him about his condition, but wrapping it in a bit of a pep talk too.
And they will underestimate you. And this will be your advantage.
The incapacitated, fearful Aegon tells his brother that he doesn't remember anything, while Aemon pushes down on his wounds. It was a tense and well-executed moment. Aegon continues to be the most interesting character for me this season. All of Alicent's scenes were well done. I liked how she's coming around to realize that she didn't do a good job as a mother, and she's seeing the consequences of that in each of them. They even mention Daeron and say that he hasn't been writing to her as much, so for Alicent, it feels like she's failed them all.
Guess it seems the Red Keep for all its privileges, may in fact be a less than salubrious environment for the forming of young men.
Was it the court? Was it their mother?
I liked how they worked in the riots in King's Landing. It makes sense after Aemon's poor decisions to lock the gates. Aemon is becoming dictatorial. Once Cole sided with Alicent at the council, he made sure to send him out of the army and then removed his mother as well. Alicent's mistakes now have fully come back around to bite her. It was a little surprising to see Aemon want to bring Otto back. Despite his impetuosity, he at least recognizes that he needs his grandfather's skills. He probably also sees Otto as a family member that never really slighted him. I didn't review episode 5 because I was too annoyed with the sex scene between Daemon and his mother, but there was a big missed opportunity in that one when it came to Aemon.
Was it worth the price?
I really wanted this scene to go on. Sometimes less is more, but it wasn't here. This left a hole big enough for Vhagar to fly through. We really needed to hear more from Aemon in this moment. It's also intriguing that Helaena is aware of what's going on, but they failed and didn't deliver to us a scene that would have shown us more of Aemon's psyche after Rook's Rest and also the underutilized Helaena. Overall, though, I think they're doing a good job with the Greens this season. They're the more interesting and real of the two factions. What's funny, too, is that in reading Fire and Blood, I was more on the side of the Blacks and ready to see those characters brought to life on screen, but since that Rhaenys Dragon Pit scene, it's been mostly downhill for their faction. They're trying too hard to make Rhaenyra the victim of trying to be a queen in a world that is dominated by men. In the first season, it felt organic. This season, it's forced. They're saying she's not respected because she's a woman, but to do that, we need to show her making good decisions and having them push back on those, not being a complete fool and showing weakness. At one point in episode 5, they suggest Jace is even taking the approach of the other men, not wanting her to go out and fight on Syrax, as if this is some sort of sexist reaction on his part. But in the episode before, we just saw Aegon foolishly rush into battle. Aegon's near demise is a clear example of why she shouldn't be on the front lines unless it's completely necessary. But her pushing to want to do so after Aegon's plunge only makes her look more stupid, not a victim of sexism. I wish they had just told the story. It's already built into the narrative by Martin. The reason for the dance is because she's a woman, so you don't have to take a heavy-handed approach of men bad. Just let it play out. Because inadvertently what they've been doing in their depiction of Rhaenyra this season is to make it seem as if the Greens were right in usurping, because so far she's proven that she's unfit to rule. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to hit the like button. If you're interested in more on House of the Dragon and A Song of Ice and Fire, listen to Caraxes and subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon.